Like the main objective of this presentation is to show how the theater circles in the early 20th century Warsaw up to year 1920-ish shaped the great theater moves in the interwar avant-garde Yiddish theater. But first of all, why Warsaw? Well, at the turn of the 19th century and the 20th century, it was one of the most vibrant cities of the Russian Empire, with quite a mixed population of Poles, Jews, Russians, and Germans from Wielkopolska and Galicia region. And during the First World War, it was occupied by the Prussian army, which needed the culture in German language. In a brief period, Warsaw, situated between Berlin and Moscow, was influenced by both cities, especially regarding arts. It served as a melting pot of Russian symbolism, futurism, German expressionism, and Polish neo-romanticism. It is not an exaggeration to say that this unique character of Warsaw was also an outcome of Jewish influences. The transnational character of Yiddish culture prompted the flux of new ideas within the boundaries of Yiddish land. Any place people spoke Yiddish and were prone to create and consume Yiddish/Jewish arts. And the central figure of Warsaw in this Jewish life and cultural life at the beginning of the 20th century, when it comes to literature and theater, was undoubtedly Isaac Leib Peretz. He gathered writers, critics, and so-called kulturtours, creating something which may be called a Peretz group or Peretz Viva. And the prominent members of this group were Jankev Dineson, Weiter, David Herman, and Alexander Mukdoni. They organized a theater symposium in Warsaw in January 1910, where Mukdoni lectured about different acting styles. Weiter shared his thoughts on the importance of theater education of the Jewish audience. Nomberg brought theater history closer, and Peretz had final thoughts on future of Yiddish theater. And this theoretical work went in hand with practical engagement in theater. In 1907, Hazomir Music Literary Club was established. And within a short time, a group of young, half-trained, half-amateur actors joined a drama club founded on the initiative of the Peretz Viva as a part of Hazomir. And this group had been gathering several months earlier in a private flat of Marko Milner. And among them were Moritz Treffler, then better known as Moritz Norwitz, Jankev Szydło, Miriam Schick, Bela Ballerina, Zygmunt, and Jonas Turkov. Soon also Janke Weislitz and Isaac Herman joined the team. And David Herman from the Peretz Viva was responsible for the rehearsals and theater training. Usually when Peretz organized lectures on Jewish or non-Jewish theater, the Hazomir Drama Club accompanied with the events with short scenes, monologues, or excerpts from plays as a live illustration of what was said or presented. And Herman also staged Esbrand by Peretz, Nora Doktor by Sholem Aleichem, or Nomberg's Mishpoche, and Familiectwi by Pinsky with this group. Unfortunately, the year until the Hazomir, with those people, like the year until it existed has not been discovered. So I don't know, probably it was till 1911-12. Warsaw also served as a cultural hub for already existing theaters. And one of such groups that came to Warsaw was Peretz Hirschbein Truppe. The very Hirschbein was highly influenced by Peretz and Peretz advocating for literally Yiddish theater that would be on a high artistic level. In 1908, in Odessa, he established a literary theater that staged, for example, his plays, but also plays by Ash or also David Pinsky. The actors were trained in Russian drama schools, such as Leia Nomi Kugel or Yankev Ben Ami. And Peretz Viva invited the troupe to stage the drama Hirschbein originally wrote, Tkieskaf, and David Herman directed the play. The performance was a part of the theater conference of the Peretz Viva I mentioned. It was in 1910. And there seemed to be too much tension and expectation of over the Hirschbein troupe, and the results were not satisfactory for both Peretz and Hirschbein. And in 1910, the troupe disbanded. Some actors stayed in Warsaw, and some went to Vilnius or Odessa. And as I'm focusing purely on Yiddish theater and not Jewish, I will only mention that in the 1913, Nahum Tzemach came to Warsaw with his Habima from Białystok, and some of the mostly Yiddish-speaking actors joined the group. One of them was Zygmunt Turkov, who, along with Witold Nitzberg, literally director of Habima, who chose plays to be staged by Habima in Warsaw, organized Artistisch Winkele after the death of Peretz in the new premises of Chazomir Club, that time at Nalewki Street. Turkov and Nitzberg were the directors of this group, and this group consisted of the former David Herman group, like Bela Ballerina, Henry Tarwo, Herz Grossbart, Jonas Turkov, Leib Blinder, Miriam Orleska, and Maurice Treffler. And there was also a theater repertoire committee consisting of Nomberg, Judith Singer, and Alter Katzizna, and of course the directors. They staged originally the short plays and translations, for example, Chekhov's Vorschlag, Shalom Aleichem Menschen, but also plays by Przybyszewski or Mark Twain. They were pretty popular in Warsaw, and thus they were invited to perform in Łódź. And even though Nitzberg opposed the idea, the group was keen to get popular in Łódź and start a career. However, just as Hirschbein's troupe failed in Warsaw, they failed in Łódź, and the audience expected full-length dramas and was not prepared for one-act plays. And after they came back to Warsaw, that troupe was dismantled. And during the First World War, after the great success in Vilnius and in Białystok, Verein von Jüdische Dramatische Artisten, VADA, came September 1917 to Warsaw and became Wilner Truppe. They started here with the repertoire that brought them fame, but also cooperated with David Herman, who staged with them Hirschbein's Tkieskaf. And this time, opposed to Hirschbein's troops' experience, it was a great success. In 1920, Wilner Truppe, who by the time also came back to Vilnius, divided into Alomis Azro and Morewski troops. And the latter group came to Warsaw, and with the collaboration with David Herman, they staged Der Debug by Anski. And that brought them international fame. And with that event, I will finish my presentation of this theater circles. As I mentioned before, Warsaw was the melting pot of the new theater, or generally art aesthetics. The growing number of publishing houses and newspapers brought great number of the Yiddish Jewish artists into the city, mostly from Lite region, like Grodno, Białystok, Vilnius. Warsaw had both the material resources to offer them. For example, when it comes to theater, at least 3-4 buildings, like Jewish theaters, where they could perform. However, above all, at the beginning of the 20th century, it also had this spiritual, intellectual provision for the theaters, namely Peretz and his group, that would help to create a new type of theater. And Peretz's initiative of working for better and literally theater influenced people at the time. Every group that emerged on the basis of those objectives, Chazomir, Hirschbein Truppe, Artistische Winkele, Fada, they were all searching for the non-shown dramas, and they were choosing young dramatists or newly written pieces, or something that was considered as to be the classical Yiddish play. If not, they were translating German and Russian dramatists. And it's worth mentioning that mostly those Russian German dramatists were of Jewish origins. And Hirschbein Truppe was led by a prolific dramatist. Artistische Winkele collaborated with writers who then joined Haliastre literary group from Warsaw. And Artistische Winkele also worked with Nomberg, who came up with the name for Fada, which then became Wilner Truppe. The name which is recurring over and over again when it comes to leading some groups or collaborating with them is Dawid Herman. He was trained as a director in the Polish drama school. He was also drawn near the Polish theater in Krakow, which is like the city of Stanisław Wyspiański, who had an influence on Yiddish theater. And he was in charge of putting Peret's theory about better Yiddish theater into practice. Namely, he trained young artists to remember their roles by heart, taking care of their language and Yiddish pronunciation. He also introduced them to new staging techniques, and he shaped a new generation of Jewish actors, because some of them were 15, 17 at the time of the first collaboration, or just before or after their 20s. And this new generation of actors disseminated those ideas through the Yiddish lands during the tourneys in the interwar period, from Ukraine, Russia, Romania, Paris, Antwerp, Northern and Southern America. Or they were involved in the education of the following generation. For example, Jonas Turkov in Vilnius in a drama school, or Zygmunt Turkov in Warsaw also in drama school. Herman's style of directing and work influenced young actors. Vilna troupe, Vikt, established by Zygmunt Turkov or his brothers, Warszawa Yiddish Theatre or Yiddish Truppe, stress ensemble acting. They dispensed with the prompter, which by the way was a huge deal because in the pre-war Yiddish theater, there was like a mafia of prompters, and Jonas even had problems with Artistenverein in Poland, while he did not want to hire any. And this young generation also immersed in artistic circles. Zygmunt Turkov and Avram Morewski recited some of the works of the writers during the Ringen Morgen, when the Haliastra was about to be created. And Henrik Berlevi, who also was a part of Haliastra, collaborated with Vilna Truppe and prepared scenography for them. When Vilna Truppe started the world tours after the debut and Turkov established his Vikt, the two ensembles consisted of actors who already worked with each other in Hirschbein-Truppe, Chazomir, or Artistische Winkele. Moreover, the actors from both groups also collaborated during the 20s and 30s, and they were even also working together abroad when joining prominent theaters worldwide. For example, Yankev Ben-Ami from Hirschbein-Truppe helped Maurice Schwartz organizing the Yiddish Art Theater in New York. And Luba Addison and Joseph Bulov from the Vilna Truppe were invited by Schwartz and stayed in New York. When we compare the fundamental assumptions of work of Vilna Truppe and Vikt and other theater troupes that emerged from Peret's Viva influences like Artistische Bawegliche Truppe, Warszawa Yiddish Theatre, we see that fight against Schund, promoting the literary repertoire, ensemble style of working and getting rid of the prompter was the basic throughout the work, even if the aesthetics of the development of their staging style was different. And to sum up, I just want to bring up history of one actress, Rochel Holzer. Rochel Holzer first joined the Yiddish theater in 1927 in Krakow, while Jonas Turkov, a former Chazomir and Artistische Winkele member, was its artistic director. And soon she worked also with Vilna Truppe and Dawid Herman and Vikt. And the legacy of Peret's Viva was so strong and so influential that when she stayed in Melbourne in 1939, she soon was in charge of a group of Yiddish actors. And this group was merged from the two theaters, Yiddish Bine and Kadima Drama Circle, into one under the new name of Dawid Herman Theater. She is said to revolutionize their acting style and repertoire by choosing more literary dramas. And that sounds familiar, isn't it? Her story only indicates how the theater circle, supported by Peret's Viva in the early 20th century Warsaw, was shaping the avant-garde Yiddish theater and successive generations of the artists all over the Yiddish land. And thank you.